Welcome to Vocatio. We are Steve and Nicole Whitaker. We record conversations about Christian calling for college students. It has been a busy week here at Trinity College. We are at the end of the week. It's casual Saturday on the set of Vocatio here in the studio, such as it is. Actually, we've had a great week. Been a lot happening with Trinity College. So we had a student here on a perspective visit, kind of a preview week. So we had several days with him. We had visits with several different sort of special guests. So our Greek 1 and Greek 2 students got to have lunch on Monday with Dr. Rob Plummer. We went out. You would have thought we would go to Greek food, but he proposed Indian because he said ancient Sanskrit language, which is the sort of the mother language of many different Indian dialects, is a closely related language to Greek. So we had Indian food with him. Then we had Dr. Steve Wellham at our supper club on Wednesday night. That was absolutely delightful. That was really great. And then we got a special visit yesterday on Friday from Mark Prater, the executive director of Sovereign Grace. And so that was a joy. He joined our practical theology class and talked to our students about vocation and thinking about off into the future how to prepare, but also giving giving the students some vision and appreciation for Sovereign Grace and the role that they, as really the third generation of Sovereign Grace, the role they're going to play in the future and how to prepare for that future. So in addition to that, just all of the classes that we do week in, week out. So quite a week. Your impressions, what'd you think?
Yes, well, also the week previous, I was privileged to welcome my high school literature teacher to teach a class on Anglo-Saxon and the origins of the English language to both of my classes, both the bridge year and my medieval literature class. And that was really a joy. I could never have imagined as a 10th grader sitting in Diane Jones's living room with one other friend and eventually two. There were eventually three of us learning from her. That I don't know, I'd have to do the math, 30 plus years later.
Yeah, let's call it that.
I would be able to welcome her into the Trinity classroom to teach these students. Yeah. They were very blessed by all that they learned. And so it's been, again, a lot of fun. I think this has been pretty much the norm almost every week this year. We've welcomed all kinds of special guests into our home for supper club, in various classes, having them teach. So I know Dr. Plummer was in especially important for you, given his role in your life.
Well, both of these guys. I've always been really grateful to God for Dr. Plummer, because my first two seminary classes in the summer and then the fall of 2011 were Greek classes, Greek 1 and Greek 2, Intro to Greek and Greek syntax. And I had him as a professor. Then I also had him later for a PhD seminar on the book of Revelation. And that got me down the road thinking about the book of Revelation and the topic for my dissertation. So I'm particularly grateful to God for him. Dr. Wellham was one of the professors that I had my very first semester on campus. So I took him for Systematic Theology 3. That was in the spring of 2012, and have been grateful to God for him ever since. And his writings have been very influential. And so, yeah, really, really wonderful week. And a sneak preview for this coming week, we have Dr. Matt Harmon coming from Winona Lake, Indiana. So he is a seminary professor, member of the Sovereign Grace Church that's there. He'll be here teaching Pastors College this week, but he's going to join us at Supper Club. So just, a lot going on, a lot happening. Then we're traveling next weekend. We'll be in Denver, going out to visit a Sovereign Grace Church there to do a parenting seminar. I'll be preaching on Sunday. So kind of a whirlwind, a lot going on. Just like we like it, never a dull moment. So
that's right. Well,
a lot cooking.
It strikes me that it's such a gift from God that we are able to just be a conduit. All that we've received, we're just trying to pass it along as quickly as we can, as much of it as we can that we have received. We're trying to just get all of this grace and education and teaching to the next generation. And it's really a joy to see that.
I think that's one of the things I
happening.
love most about Trinity College is just thinking the Lord he's been so kind. We've had so many opportunities to learn from writers and leaders like these that we've been describing, as well as to read, to hear sermons, and then to just be able to share that with the next generation, to package that, to compile it in a way that's coherent and clear. How do we take all of these different streams of thought and learning and then pass them on? It's that's one of the best things. Love it about Trinity College.
And I love how the students are really embracing that and seeking to eagerly apply all their learning to their lives. When we had our time with Dr. Wellham, they were asking a number of great questions. How do we live in the culture today in a way that is reflects the gospel and the change that's happened in our lives? And so I love to see the eagerness with which they're pressing into the prospective student was telling me. He said, I can go to this other college near home that's going to teach me how to do some things. He said, or I could come here and learn about all of life and how to honor God with all of life. And I was like, wow, you're doing an excellent job articulating our vision.
That's what Trinity College is for.
And so I love that we're able to do this. So it's been a lot of fun. Real joy.
I think, and one of the corollaries that I've been really impressed by is how our students are learning to take these different threads from different classes and synthesize them. They start seeing common ideas, common themes that run through them, themes about the Bible, about history, about literature, and about, of course, most of all, about Christian living. Then how then are we called to live out all of this wonderful truth that we're picking up? The truth is wonderful and it's a gift from God, but if all it is information, if it's not transformative, then we're really missing out on an opportunity. And it's one of the things I admire most about our students is how much they love to do that and how quick they are to see those connections between classes and to see, here's how these things fit together and here's the difference it makes in real life. That's been amazing to see.
Right. That's the goal of our practical theology class, which is every Friday.
Yep.
But also at the end of our, for the upperclassmen, at the end of our medieval classes, you're teaching history and theology. I'm teaching literature and rhetoric. We are spending, as many times as we can, we're spending a little bit of the end of the final class of the week just talking about, well, how does this apply?
Right.
How do we make this truth that we've learned go to work for us in our lives today? And it's really remarkable to see all of these Christian leaders from earlier times who are having an influence on our students today. And so many of the problems that they're facing are different, and so many of them are the same.
It's really true.
So there's a lot of wisdom.
Yeah, I think it's a really great point. And okay, so I think that brings us to a topic we could talk about today. When we think about synthesizing some of what students are learning, we have, in our last couple episodes of Vocatio, we've been talking some about relationships. And we've had some really great follow-up discussions with some students and gotten a few questions in response to some of the prior episodes.
Yep.
And one of the themes that's emerged from that, I think some folks have asked about, wanted to hear more about, and that we've talked about that we think would be beneficial would be, I think it'd be good if we could talk a little bit about, as we're thinking about relationships, so that's been a theme that's kind of carried us now for a couple of episodes. You inevitably reach a point where you need to talk about how do you actually start to walk this out in a way that doesn't just get weird. And that can be, there's a couple different sides to this. On the one hand, young man and young woman might start a relationship. And how do they do that in a way that doesn't unnecessarily draw them away from a friend group or out of the community that they've been in, right? And we've seen that where that can, I'm sure everybody's seen that, where a couple gets together and all of a sudden it's like, they used to be friends with us, then now they're just isolated, right? So how do you do that? But if you're on the other side of it, if it's your friend who has just started a relationship, they're dating now, what are we supposed to think about that? How do we relate to them in a way that's not weird, that I don't just feel like this sort of third wheel, I'm not sure what I'm doing here. How do we walk that out in a way? So maybe first we could just talk a little bit about some of the challenges that emerge, whether that's even on the very front end of, I'm just trying to assess, where's the Lord leading me? A guy's asking, do I like her? A girl is asking, do I like him? Maybe asking, does he like me? There's all this assessment that's happening. and then there's the uncertainty and excitement of starting a relationship, but then you're trying to navigate how all that pans out.
Right.
I thought you said something really interesting in the car earlier about just the instability or the uncertainty that this time of life is characterized by. Maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Right. I think there's so much going on. I think what you said was really good there. This happens in community. This is a feature of church community, church life, life in fellowship with other believers. So we are not, whenever you watch a rom-com or any other kind of show, it is all about this one or these two individuals, and it's centered on them, on the two of them. And then everyone else is supporting cast. Everyone else is just about them too. They're either the comic relief or the shoulder to cry on or the rival. It's all centered on these two characters. And you know, again, understandably for telling a story in film, that makes sense. However, we can't import that mentality into the church and then start to think this is how it is. I'm the center. I'm the main character. This guy I like. We're the two main characters here in this story, and my friends and his friends, they're all supporting cast, right? They're all here to be about us and go through the drama with me, and it's all about me. So I think we have to remember the Bible would completely have just shift our worldview 180, because we've got what we've got is the Lord is building a people. He's redeemed a people. He's building a church for his glory. And so this is all happening. That's the whole purpose of you getting married, is God is working through families. He's working through church communities. He has called a husband and a wife together to model what Christ and the church, to be a model of Christ in the church. So there's just so much more happening than you and this guy. And I think if we could, in fact, when you kind of see the bigger picture, I think that can really help to just start to actually anchor things so they aren't so unsettled. Yeah. This is just what God has been doing generation after generation after generation. This isn't just a bunch of drama in your life all of a sudden. This is what is going on in God's purposes are in this. So first of all, I would say the unsettledness, the instability of the time, if we just step back, again, John Piper's famous line, you know, God is doing 10,000 things that nobody can see but him. He's doing a lot here. So let's just zoom out and say this is in the context of community. So a lot of the instability can just be taken away by not focusing on ourselves as the center of the story. Yeah. And I think that's where we start. Yeah. And go ahead.
Well, just a verse that I would attach to that as a way to think about that. One of my favorite verses, 2 Corinthians 5:15, that Christ died for all, that those who live might no longer live for themselves, but for him who for their sake died and was raised. Right. And that's a reorientation of our priorities, because, you're right, especially so much of the relationship scene, so much of dating is very self-referential. Right. What am I looking for? When can I start in on this? When can, how am I going to start a conversation with her? When will he ask me? It's all, and some of that is unavoidable, but, so it's not that it's wrong to have those thoughts, but in the midst of those thoughts, if we can self-consciously be, a question we can start asking is, I think there's two questions that could govern us. The first is, in this, to ask, what does the Lord want from me here? Right. What does obedience mean? Right. And I think that's I don't know what happened to that word. Obedience used to be a word that was in Christian vocabulary much more than it is today. Right. I don't think it's a very popular word. It's a word that we would do really well to get back, to ask, God has directions for us in his word. Right. And what does it mean for us to obey him? And that might obey him in our attitudes, in our hearts, how we guard our heart. We don't let our emotions get away. It means to obey him in our words and actions, and how we actually relate in relationships or in other ways. So that's a good place to start.
No, and I think you could add onto that Ecclesiastes 12, the end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and obey his commandments.
Love it.
Elizabeth Elliot's famous tagline for her radio show, obedience is the gateway to joy. Yep. So again, this is not okay, well, let's take all the fun out of dating and relationships. This is actually, let's bring the joy back.
It's a protection
Exactly
for the joy and the fun. Is
Yeah.
like, this is the only way that you will actually have enduring joy. And well, that's one way. That's I think there's two ways. So the first question is to ask, what does the Lord require of me? What does God want of me? What does obedience mean here? So kind of a cluster of questions we could ask.
Right.
I was thinking about another question I think we could ask, and that is the question of what would serve others? What would serve others? And we think of that. I think when we come to relationships, we start with what would serve the other person. And good. That's a
You mean in the relationship?
In the relationship,
yes,
right? A guy is looking, okay, what would serve her? Timing. How do I ask her out? How do I have a conversation with her that's not like creeper or weird or whatever?
And you should be asking this question.
Definitely ask that question. Yes, definitely ask that question. And I'm sure girls are asking questions too. I just don't know what they are. But I still haven't figured it out. But I think we also need to recognize, as you said, that that's a relationship that's going to be walked out in community. And so another important aspect of it is to be thinking, if we're going to get down the road on a relationship, or we're going to think about even my longing for a relationship, my inquiries about relationship, am I talking about this all the time? How does that serve people around me? Those questions I think are really important too.
Yes, and I think they're really important for all of us in the Christian community. So as if we are a close friend of someone who's dating, if we are and moving towards marriage, if we are even distant. I mean, I even just think the church community can really serve. Let's not be gossipy and all like, okay, oh, did you see him? Look at her.
Professional matchmaking. You got that one friend you're always trying to set up.
Let's actually think about what would serve this couple. If there's a godly guy who's interested in a godly girl, how can I serve them? Right? And maybe talking to all of our friends about it isn't what would serve that couple. So always trying to think what would serve the other. I think there's, again, here, the couple who is in a relationship moving towards marriage, there is a degree to which, if they are, the more confirmation they get and the closer they get to actually engagement and marriage, this is an exclusive relationship that is going to be unique and is sacred. And so there is going to be a movement towards exclusivity. So this is not just, okay, well, we're just hanging out in group settings anymore, and we're all with everybody else, and we want to make sure all our friends aren't negatively affected by this. No, it is going to be hard on friendships.
It's going to change things.
It is going to change things, and that's a reality. And so I don't think we need to feel. I know I've been on both sides of this. I remember we were on both sides of this. So a bunch of our friends kind of got married the year before we got married. And so that was tricky navigating that. And then when we did it as well, just again, the people who are still single, they're kind of disappointed in you because you're spending time.
You're not around anymore.
Right. Exactly. However, so you have to be sensitive to that and do it in a way that is not, again, I recommend couples thinking, okay, when we're in group settings, when we're at church, when we're in other places with the group, we're not going to just be off in the corner talking. This is a time to be with community. But yes, go out on dates, have those times, but just do them separately from when you're in community. However, I kind of want to speak to those who are not in the relationship at that moment, because I think that it raises a lot of temptations. I think one of the biggest is the temptation to envy. Especially for young women. I don't know as much for young men, although I think it can be a real temptation. If a guy successfully wins a girl's heart, it can be a temptation. It's not that you wanted to win that girl's heart. It's that you just want to win a girl's heart. And this other guy has been successful, and maybe you've been turned down a couple times. Maybe you don't see anyone around. So I think we need to be aware that the temptations to envy are just rife at this time in community. And a lot of times it's not, I've known a lot of girls, this has been the case for myself. It's not like when I was single, there were a lot of good things God was giving me to do at the time. I wasn't unhappy being single. I was just unhappy when I was envious of other girls, because a relationship seemed to offer security, hope for the future. They got a lot of attention. All of a sudden the spotlight was on them. I'm playing a supporting role once again. to the girl, another friend who's getting married. And it just reveals, well, what are the motives going on here?
Right.
Marriage is not about getting attention, and it's not about security. It's about honoring the Lord. It's about loving your husband. So I think just watching out for the temptations to envy. If you find yourself unhappy with what's going on, and it's not ungodly, okay, it's just godly men are pursuing godly women, and this is, the Lord is in this. If you find yourself unhappy in that community, start with look at the sin of envy, and getting rid of the sin of envy, because it's not hurting anyone but you, is going to actually really increase your joy and your ability to rejoice with them. So again, going back to your two questions, how can I honor the Lord? How can I serve others?
Yeah. Well, and I think those two questions prepare the way for greater joy and happiness. You mentioned
marriage,
well, in marriage, but as you're waiting in a season of uncertainty or instability, because you mentioned that sort of diagnostic question. If you feel like you're unhappy in the season, I think then asking these two questions is a pathway towards joy and happiness. You mentioned that Elizabeth Elliot quote, obedience is the gateway to joy. And so I think she's exactly right. So that deals with the first question of what would honor the Lord here? What would please the Lord? What does obedience mean for me at this time? The other question, then, how can I serve others during this time? Whether that's, everybody else is getting paired up and is moving forward with the relationship and I'm just waiting, or I'm the one now taking steps forward in a relationship. If I'm thinking, how do I serve others? Well, I'm reminded of a quotation I just read this morning. I had the boys out at breakfast, our sons. We had breakfast, and we're reading together J.I. Packer's book, God's Plans for You.
One of my favorites.
He has a chapter in there called Hot Tub Religion, which is brilliant. It's a brilliant chapter, but he's actually quoting somebody else, but he doesn't say who he's quoting. But the line in there is, he says, the seeds of happiness grow best in the soil of service. I thought, what a great thought.
Say that again.
The seeds of happiness grow best in the soil of service. That as we serve others, as we give our lives away for others with no expectation of anything in return. I'm not doing this because I think, oh, well, if I parlay this service into God will send me someone. We're not doing that. God has just called us to happily give our lives away, and the Lord will compound the happiness. And so I think that idea of being obedience is the gateway to joy, and the seeds of happiness grow best in the soil of service. Wow, that fits right in there with those two questions.
Yes.
And so I think for any young people who are like, things are so uncertain, they are so unstable. I'm just not sure I'm not sure where the Lord is leading me yet towards a relationship. I'm not sure when the timing is. I'm supposed to be focusing on school, but I have friends who are starting to get into a relationship, and I'm supposed to be getting a job or
work.
There's just so many competing desires and interests, and it can just really simplify things. Like just, okay, take a deep breath and ask these two questions. What would, for you, today, like not even for the next year, but just today, this week, what would it mean to honor God? What does the Lord want you to do today? And how does God want you to serve others today, tomorrow, or this week? We don't, we can't deal with the whole next, I don't know what the Lord has for the next year. I can only see a little bit down the road. I was talking to a young man the other day who is trying to discern God's wisdom for navigating the next, that we're right at the very early stages. Is it a relationship? Is it not a relationship? Let's see. And I just told him, look, bud, the Lord likes to give you turn-by-turn directions on a GPS. You know how you can switch modes? You can see, turn right up there in 100 yards.
Yeah.
Or you can look and see, the Lord doesn't give us the whole list of how to get. He just gives us, what's the next thing? And that takes a lot of faith and a lot to trust God is hard in that moment, but it pays huge dividends if you do.
Right. I think that is what the Lord is doing in all this. He's doing, again, many more things than we can see. But he is helping us to, in repentance and rest is your salvation. In quietness and trust is your strength. And the prophet is there accusing the Israelites, but you would have none of it. You went after other gods. You lit your own candles. You tried to make light in your own darkness for yourself instead of seeking the Lord. So this is what the Lord is doing. And it's just every time you feel that restlessness, that uncertainty, that, oh, this is difficult, that's intended to cause you to seek the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Say, Lord, please help my restless heart to find its rest in you.
Yep, amen.
You have
Amen.
made me
So good.
for yourself.
Right.
Again, the famous Augustine quote doesn't get old. It delivers every time. And I think recognizing there is a discipline that the Lord is teaching you in this time of uncertainty, is not so that you will someday get settled in a marriage per se. It's so that you will be settled in the Lord, so that
Right.
your marriage will be settled in the Lord,
Yeah.
so that relationship will be secure and steadfast. So the Lord is leading you to that. And so again, times with the Lord, pursuing
Mm-hmm.
again,
Mm-hmm.
pursuing Him. How do I honor the Lord?
Yep.
And then
Yep.
how do I serve others? In some ways, it's so simple. And yet our sinful hearts just resist those two solutions.
Yep.
Every time.
Yep.
So this is what the Lord is doing. And so if you find that this season, this time in your life is churning up stuff, if you just feel like, yeah, there's just a lot. Could be envy, discontent. All of a sudden I'm super excited and kind of a little over enthusiastic. If there's just a lot going on,
Right.
there's the Lord is seeking to what is it? I can't remember the reference. Confirm, strengthen, settle, and establish you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what He's at work doing, and that's what you want to be seeking.
Yeah, I really like how you're taking this sense of unsettledness that many young people feel right now and looking down the road with what is God preparing you for. And I think one of the things at Trinity College we talk about a lot is thinking about what is the telos
Right.
of a thing? What is the telos of
Right.
what is the end? What is the outcome, the goal? Where does this head? Right? What is that's basically the wisdom that you see in the book of Ecclesiastes. He's always looking forwards. Same thing with Proverbs. Solomon is always, he's turning his son's head. Look at where this sin heads. Look at where it ends up. Look at where it goes.
Right.
Or look at where this blessing goes. How is it meant to work out? And so I think a lot of young people wish they could just press fast forward. You know, they just push the little slider down at the bottom of the video and scroll forward through this. I just wish I could get past this and it'd be settled. And no, the Lord He wants to use this time to prepare you for future unsettledness. And Lord willing, young people watching this will get married and find themselves in happy marriages. And that part of their life will be settled and clear and not tumultuous the way this time is, not uncertain and unstable, right? So we pray that they all find good, stable, certain, happy marriages. But there will be other uncertainties and other instabilities. There may be illness, there may be unemployment, there may be relational difficulties. The economy, who knows? I mean, there's but the Lord, for sure, the Lord will send and allow other kinds of difficulties that will cause trial and temptation. And this time period is meant to prepare you for that stuff out in the future. And there's actually a kind of safety in learning to navigate these things now, because you have the advantage of, like, the stakes are they're actually not as high as they seem, because they seem high. I get it. We were there. I get it.
Yes.
But you're not married yet. You don't have children yet. People aren't depending on you in a career yet. And so you're getting to learn all of the nuts and bolts of how to trust God, how to discern His will, how to pray and hear His voice for guidance and leadership, how to get counsel and how to weigh and assess counsel and apply that to your life. All of that, those are all learned skills. So this is all like a lab to teach you how to do that. I've read a story. I read a story a while back about how in the golden age of sail, like in the Napoleonic Wars, late 1700s, early 1800s, the British Royal Navy was at its peak. And as captains of these old wooden sailing ships, as they would leave port and head out into the Atlantic, wherever they were going, they would pray early on. They would pray for a storm. They would ask for a storm early in the journey, because it would bring the crew together before the lead started flying, before a battle ensued. And you could think of that as like, look, the uncertainty, the difficulty that you're experiencing in this time as a young person, this is God sending a storm as a little trial. You're just getting started. Maybe it'll be the hardest thing you face. Well, praise God, that'd be great. But chances are really good there are bigger storms yet to come. And the Lord wants to prepare you for what's coming down the road by learning to trust and obey him, and learning to serve others before serving yourself. And as you do that in this season, he's preparing you for what is to come.
Right.
That takes faith. It takes eyes of faith to see that, and to recognize there is a telos to this. There's an outcome. This isn't random or chaotic. There's an outcome that God is working to bring about in your life, and that's a gift. It's his mercy and his love to you.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we try to emphasize here. Trinity College is not like, okay, fine, finally you've figured out, you've gotten through high school and now you're going to settle into college. No, we're here trying to say, no, this is not a, does the road wind uphill all the way, asks Christina Rossetti. Yes, to the very end, right? We're here to help you. This is the foot of the mountain, and we're here to prepare you to go up that mountain, not okay, well now we're going to settle here right in the foothills and be comfy for a couple of years, for 4 years, and then we'll go through a rough transition, and then we'll be comfortable in our job and with our wife or our husband. And the whole point, the Lord doesn't, this world is not our home. The Lord doesn't let us get settled here. He is going to constantly be pressing home to us the point that this world is unstable, it is uncertain, it is wicked, and we're to depend on the Lord. So we're going to start as we mean to go here. We're going to start by depending on the Lord and say, I want to learn to depend on him now in all of this instability. This is what the world is like. This is not just a brief period of time. It's just, I'm just growing up. And the stability I had, and again, many young people that we know have grown up in very godly, stable homes. However, part of growing up is to realize that's not what the world is like. This world is not our home. And we've had this wonderful home life, potentially, as a foretaste of what we are going to experience in heaven. But again, your parents are have dealt with a lot of instability. If you just look and consider or ask them, how stable and certain has life been for you, right? I'm sure some of you might not even need to ask. You might know that your parents have faced great challenges with health or church life or job and income, many challenges. So again, just recognizing this is all part of growing up into maturity. And it's part of helping you, all of this instability, all of this, okay, 1 week I think he likes me, and the next week it really seems like he's moved on to another girl, and this is not going to happen. All of that is designed to show you, yes, this is the way the world works. We are fickle. The world is fickle, but God is true, and he will never fail us. And as every time you bring all of that confusion, all of that angst, all of that anxiety, all of that unhappiness, even the rejection or the disappointment, bring that all to Christ. Bring it to him.
It occurs to me as you describe this world that we live in, this is not our home. And so there is sin and suffering in the world. There's temptation and trial. There's temptation in us and trial outside of us. And this world is just fraught. It's difficult. And I think especially for young people, we've seen this with friends who are our peers when we were younger, and we've seen it in the next generation of the church and now in young people today. People can respond to the difficulty and disappointment in a couple different ways. And there are some who they start to encounter that. They get out from home, out from this sort of this umbrella of blessing of a good and godly home, and they start encountering a little bit of the world and like, whoa, this is harder than I thought. And they're like, I don't like it. And they start to seek escape in all manner of false refuges, and it could be just rampant ungodliness, or it could be just be sorry substitutes for the Savior. And that might be food or sports or leisure, movies, Netflix, whatever. But I think what the Lord wants in this is that uncertainty, that instability is meant to push us to Christ. Yes, that gives us a sense of urgency of, what I need is I need Jesus. I need God's word in me, and I need it every day. And I need to stand on that we are like in Hebrews 11, when it says we can be like the people who This is not, they're sojourners in this world
Right.
and aliens here, but they are looking forward to a city whose foundation and builder is God. And we know there's a home there, so we're going to get busy. We're going to trust in Him and ask, what do I do now to bring stability and clarity into this world of instability and confusion?
Right.
And
well, and I think
faith.
that's really important, is that it can't just be something that in your quiet time you get your heart settled in the Lord. That's meant to work out.
Yeah.
So what you said, again, back to your two questions: how do I honor the Lord, and how do I serve others? The more you are tempted to think about yourself and be unhappy, just go serve someone else until you're too tired to think about yourself.
That's a good recipe right there.
Just do your school, babysit, evangelize, find out how you can get involved in spreading the gospel to your local community by working with your local church. Just go ask your pastor, I need some people to serve. How can I be a part of what the church is doing here to reach this community? What can I do? I guarantee you, your pastor is going to be very excited to get that question, and is going to be able to help direct and guide you. And consider, make sure you're in a church community. Make sure that your time at school is being spent doing what the Lord's calling you to do. So
you plant yourself in that soil of serving, the seeds of happiness are going to spring right up.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a happy thought. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think if we can pass that on to the next generation and they hear that and begin to put that into practice, that makes me very happy indeed, thinking about the legacy that our children and their children and the future of our churches would be bright. And I think by the grace of God will be bright. So probably more we can talk about there. And I just, even as we're talking, different ways to do that in specifics. So we'll see if folks have questions about that they send in, we can come back to it. But lots more good stuff to think about as we think about relationships and how to navigate this time period as young people. But probably enough for folks to think about today. So we've covered a lot of ground. So until next time, this has been Vocatio. Thanks for joining us. We talk about Christian calling for college students. This has been brought to you by Trinity College of Louisville, where we shape young men and young women for Christ and for the church. You can learn more at trinitycollegelou.com.